Hi everyone, Pat here with something a little bit different for the channel. Back in October, I did a podcast by myself since Ian wasn't around, and so I decided to have on a guest for a portion of it. Brent Black, aka Brentalfloss, came on and we talked for about an hour or so about his career, about YouTube life in general, how it's changed, and so since it ran long, I wasn't sure what to do with it at the time and didn't make the podcast cut, so decided to put it out now. So here it is in all its glory, a conversation, an interview with Brent Black. So joining us live via Skype, wow, technology, this is our first guest. Ian's not here to see the technology work, but we're going to test it out. Brent Black, also known as Brentalfloss on the interwebs, who's been doing YouTube videos for about, 7 years now. Brent, how you doing?
I'm all right. How are you, Pat?
I am doing okay. I'm just glad we could work out this technological mastery we are doing right now. We just saw each other at Portland Retro Gaming Expo. We were roommates there.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should not even speak of those sort of things.
Well, I found out you snore, and you found out that I breathe weird when I sleep. So that was pretty much the list of revelations, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, you had this robotic hum that I honestly thought that you were like playing some sort of like some video like under your covers, like you were like a 10-year-old like reading with a flashlight, that I was going to catch you. But then I realized, no, that's just maybe sleep apnea or the early onset of it.
You know, ever since I got that Iron Man heart battery installed, I've had all sorts of weird shit happen. So, am I not supposed to say bad words? I'm sorry.
You can curse. This is a podcast. It's on iTunes. And speaking of cursing, you've cursed quite a bit in your videos, haven't you?
Yeah, you know, I have been getting away from the really vulgar stuff in the last few years, but I definitely have a track record with pretty much every bad word you can think of somewhere along the line.
So, Brent, you started doing videos about 2007, correct, or was it earlier?
Well, I signed up earlier, and I kind of wishy-washed on whether I wanted to do a video, and just started trying it out in 2007, but I didn't really come across anything that stuck, you know, like anything that was a working video series until summer of 2008, when I actually added lyrics to Mega Man 3, and then the whole with lyrics thing was born, and that was, you know, that was really the start of Brentalfloss being a thing, as opposed to just some random dude trying stuff out.
Well, when did you realize that it was going to become a thing, that you saw there was actually some popularity to it, that if not at the time, back in 2008, you couldn't really, not everyone could monetize videos very few could. But when did you see that it was at least catching on with people?
Well, honestly, I had a really strong feeling from the get-go. It was something like my 20th video, and I had done a lot of stuff that other people had done, like a 2 Girls 1 Cup reaction, or playing video game music on the piano. Lots of stuff imitating what I'd seen, and you know, it didn't get much traction. I had a couple Homestar Runner impression videos that did okay, but that's really not a very good, you know, that's not really a long game kind of brand. And the difference was, whereas I had these videos that got a couple hundred views here, a couple hundred there, maybe a couple thousand, the Mega Man 3 with lyrics thing, like the next day it was on College Humor, it was on all these different websites that I personally went to at the time, and it was like, that was a huge difference. And the views, in about a week, I got more views on that one video than I had gotten in the entirety of my YouTube videos up to that point. And so it started to become clear, like, this is a special thing. And as I continued to try out a couple other songs, you know, in that same series, it just kind of, you know, cemented itself as a thing that, more than anything else I had done, and more than anything else that I continued to do, that was the brand that people would click on.
It's funny that you mentioned a site like College Humor, because there was a sort of time where YouTube did have sort of rival sites where people would go and, I guess, search out viral videos on other sites like College Humor, or even a little bit later, Funny or Die. But YouTube sort of entrenched itself, I'd say, by, I don't know, 2011 or 2012, by the very latest, as the like #1 site to go to check out this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that had to do with the purchase by Google, because once Google kind of like, because yeah, you're right, there was Break, there was there were a lot of different players, a lot of different. I don't know when Blip got started, but that was clearly at one time trying to sort of be a contemporary of YouTube, if nothing else. But or at least an alternative to it. But the point being,
Daily Motion used to be bigger.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that YouTube, by being integrated into the Google monster kind of suddenly had tentacles everywhere, especially during what I would consider to be a mistake, which is the Google Plus integration, which personally I don't, I'm not a big fan of Google Plus for the same reason I'm not a big fan of communism. It's like, yes, we should share, but not at the end of a gun. And yes, we might check out your social media site, but not because you force us to. So anyway, slight sidetrack there, but I think that did have a lot to do, the Google thing in general had a lot to do with YouTube's kind of, it sort of became the Google of online video.
Well, let's talk about sort of, I guess, that split. And in my head, it's really, I guess, pre-2011, post-2011, where sort of the YouTube world changed. And you were fortunate enough to be popular before that change, in my estimation, which was about a couple, 2 to 3 years after Google bought out YouTube, where they wanted to start making money, where you had a bunch of these MCNs, multi-channel networks, start popping up. And for our listeners, what these are sort of consolidated networks that basically look at them as a manager of multiple YouTube channels that sign them to share ad revenue and then perhaps promote or push these channels and link all these individual channels together. So you got popular before these MCNs started popping up. So you've seen the difference in how YouTube has been and in how creators have been looked at before and after. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all.
Well, what I find interesting is that the MCN model, really, when it started to happen in its current form, it wasn't so much that it was new, it's that suddenly it could be integrated into the machinery of YouTube seamlessly, rather than before, you'd see things like Screw Attack or Normal Boots or basically websites that, for better or worse, sort of conglomerated multiple, almost like making a little web ring of YouTube producers, and with varying degrees of either exclusivity, as far as like the website would own exclusive rights to a video for a certain amount of time, or that the participants were encouraged to direct people to the website rather than their YouTube channel. So I feel like that kind of stuff isn't new. It's that MCNs suddenly made it where you could seamlessly just have your stuff on YouTube, which still had the most foot traffic, but get certain benefits, which range from legal protection, which was my main reason for joining, as well as increased advertiser sponsorship, in some cases brand deals, and often just sort of that sense of strength in numbers, where if you admire somebody and their channel, and you're sort of now in a league with them, you're kind of in this little Justice League Avengers kind of thing where, even if you don't know them, you're still kind of like on a channel with them. In the same way that, you get a show on Fox, now you're on the channel with The Simpsons and Family Guy, even if you're not that, same kind of deal.
Sure. There's also the other part that we're missing out on. It's the promotion. Before these MCMs started to pump tons of money into YouTube to advertise, before on YouTube there was actually a staff that would handpick channels in different genres and put them on the front page, saying, check out these people. I mean, that's one of the things that one of the reasons why someone like the Irate Gamer was popular early on. We're talking like 2007, 2008, was because someone on the YouTube staff picked them out specifically to watch them. But
honestly, I not to interrupt, but that you're totally right. And on a personal note, my subscribers in late 2008 tripled when Tetris with Lyrics was front paged for about 28 hours. And that's still to this day in my analytics the most views I've ever gotten in any one day period. It was something like 600,000 views, which at the time was a number I could not even fathom, especially in the space of a day. But yeah, it was more arbitrary and kind of like, if the YouTube gods smile upon you, then you're in.
Yeah, it was a slightly, I'd say, more level playing field for a number of reasons. There wasn't money being put at promotion from these MCNs, who, again, these are giant companies with a lot of venture capital into them. These aren't like when you see like Machinima or a Maker Studios. These aren't little startup companies. These are companies with millions and millions of dollars behind them. So that was one of the reasons why it was more level playing field in terms of getting your name out there. But the other one was because there was just less people making videos.
Yeah.
2008, you couldn't buy camcorders cheaply yet. HD was not sort of a standard even mode. I'd say not until maybe even 2010 or 2011, where HD became like the gold standard.
Right.
So there was a lot less to choose from, which is why a lot of these guys that started out back in the day, like you or like Happy Video Game Nerd, these are guys started out in 2007, where it was just easier to get noticed.
Yeah, I do feel like that's been a challenge, because if you had a hit I remember I did this video that I now am a little bit conflicted about, but just for the sake of chiming in, it's called The Truth About Toad, and it's sort of revealing the secret that Toad's been gay all along, Toad from the Mario universe.
Is this a spoiler?
That video, yeah, spoiler alert, sorry. But that video got 100,000 views in the first like 2 days, and I thought, like, this is how it's gonna be. This is the new standard for a hit for me. And to be honest, the oversaturation in the years that followed have made it now where, 45,000 views in the same amount of time is something that I might consider a hit in my own brand, just because that is, it's sort of a comparative slice of the pie. It's like if there's an exponentially higher number of people looking at all genres of videos on YouTube, and you can still do half of what you did when there were, probably, 20% of the number of people on YouTube, it's pretty good. But at the same time, you have to accept that oversaturation means everybody gets a smaller slice of the pie.
Sure, it's sort of like we said before. You had like a Break.com, you had College Humor, you even had Game Trailers. Used to have a very robust community. That's where a lot of people discovered me, was on Game Trailers. I had a couple of videos put on the front page of there as a user submission. But now it's like YouTube's has standardized, like it's in the name. It's the boob tube. It's YouTube. It's really the internet TV standard now, and this is where more and more people go to. And you have a lot of kids tell me that they don't watch TV. They'll just put on their YouTube channels, and just watch them, and that's really the future. Yep. So yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I didn't get popular before the switch over. I would say I didn't hit 10,000 subscribers until 2011. So I was 3 years in, really at that sort of precipice of the change. But yeah, even the numbers are skewed in terms of subscribers. It used to be if you had 5,000-10,000 subscribers, if you had that sort of number in 2008, you were the frickin' man.
Absolutely.
Like, you were like in the top 5% probably of YouTubers. Now that's like the bottom 5%.
There came this time right around 2010, it started to get hot and heavy, where YouTube kind of, and what I heard, and this is anecdotal and possibly apocryphal, but what I heard was that basically Google was losing money on YouTube. So they were ramping up the machine of monetizing as many channels as possible and as many videos as possible. So now the standard of how many views you had to get before they would reach out to you for monetization went down. And so, like, I guess the point being, suddenly when they kept redoing the algorithm, it became a matter of keeping people on YouTube so that they would watch more things and make Google more money, or at least lose Google less money on the football field's worth of servers it must take to store, 16 years of video uploaded every day? Something like that. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. So yeah, obviously Google has to make their investment back, and I'm not even sure if they even have yet. When they bought it, what was it? They bought it in 2007 or 6? They bought it like a year and a half.
Sometime around then. I want to say 7, but I don't remember the exact year. But you know what? I feel like Google might have a lost leader with YouTube, but I have to say, sometimes in my teeny-weeny little career, I've had situations where I knew that the business model for a particular project was flawed, but I wanted so bad to have that feather in my cap that I just went for it. And it's like, if Google can boast, of all the things Google's tried, Google Buzz, Google Wave, all these things that either or even Google, pretty much, half of the little harebrained things Google's tried to take off with, especially when they're ripping off something like Twitter or, whatever, don't work. So the fact that they can say, yeah, but we are now YouTube. Yes. That is a thing in our trophy chest. I feel like that's worth losing a little bit of money on, because of just the amount of prestige and probably power that it gives to them.